only secure, but also not only consumable. They want the entire organization to be able to use it and access it, not just the technical folks. They want to empower more users. And on the third point is what they really care about is they actually want to leverage the AI to transform the organization itself and how they work with their citizens, their teams, and actually drive new initiatives and create new services and capabilities. So these are kind of like the three priorities we're seeing across our conversations. So that all sounds awesome, but the reality is that it's really hard, and it's really hard to do that at scale. Why is that? The challenges that people are having is that their data estate is super fragmented. There's that much complexity across all these different areas. You kind of move slower. There's high costs of maintaining all these kind of siloed areas and different tools. And yeah, just driving lots of complexity that's kind of increased the costs. It also gets increasingly challenging where organizations have many different data warehouses, where over time different business units have their own data, different systems and independent warehouses, and just kind of becomes really complex to kind of like unify all that together. So with that as the backdrop, from a Databricks perspective, we pioneered the concept of a lake house. So combining both your unstructured and structured data and combining that with generative AI. Um, our founders have created a lot of those popular open source frameworks you see on the right-hand side of the screen. So Delta Lake, Malflow, Unity Catalog, these are kind of like the underpin our platform. And beyond that, we're talking about the data intelligence platform. So that's kind of like unifying governance, security, unifying all your data in the one platform and combining that with AI to really transform your organization. So the last thing I want to touch on, like, what are the kind of three main things we can enable today to really empower and scale data and AI across your organization? So the first being low code ETL. So having something that's low code, easy, straightforward to really ingest your data from your different systems onto the one platform is going to be key. Next up, Genie AI, which is a natural language tool. So we actually, instead of thinking about dashboards, we're thinking about how do we interact with your data? How do we create value differently from our data? And how do we get different users, non-technical users, to really engage and interact with your data, with the system actually understanding the context of your organization? And lastly, Agent Breaks is a lot of talk about agentic AI. So how do we get agents to kind of do those, be assistants for your organization? So yeah, that's kind of what high level what our focus is at Databricks for our local councils. So next up, I have the pleasure of introducing AJ Radhakrishnan from the City of Greater Geelong. He's the head of data and digital, and he's going to be speaking through about the initial journey about getting onto Databricks, which is sometimes the most challenging part. So AJ, I'll pass over to you, and happy for you to share your own screen, or we can drive for you, up to you.
Thank you, Janita. If you could drive for me, that'll be helpful.
Yeah, of course.
And thank you all for joining this conversation today. So I think it's great that we've got the opportunity to talk about the journey so far from our standpoint, which we hope will be helpful for you all when you are thinking about your own approach to analytics. So it's a story that I want to take you all through in terms of how did we land with Databricks, where do we start, how do we land with Databricks, and what do we get out from the implementation of a modern data analytics platform. So I'll talk you through that whole journey. I'll specify some of the thinking that we went through when we chose Databricks as the platform of choice, and then what do we deliver as outcomes. So we've been in this platform for a year now. So we were able to deliver some good business outcomes and deliver through some good use cases. So we started with a journey of having a different vision that wouldn't necessarily align with the Databricks journey, so to say. So we had this vision of having all data in Oracle, an Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse, because the vision strategy at the time was to run the business of the council all in one system, which is all Oracle. So data was to be in Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse. That was not the challenge that we faced at the time, but the goal was to try and deliver data as a service back to the business. So what I mean by that is it was not analytics, anything from a reporting standpoint, out of the box reporting. The strategy was to deliver from the Oracle system, but then the approach was to get curated, normalized data, which is the engineered data, back to the business so they can generate their own analytics. So that was the vision at the time. That strategy failed for a variety of reasons, but we're not going to get to the reasons and why it didn't go through successfully. And then we went ahead and did a strategic reset. We revisited our goals and vision, and then trying to understand what does the council want, not necessarily in terms of what we were trying to do from a technology standpoint, but what exactly does the business want? And we shifted the focus to more of a data-driven decision making, which is what modern organizations, which you've all heard probably in your own journey so far, it's all about making organizations into an insight-driven organization. So the emphasis is on actionable insights and value creation rather than giving data. So the approach was to create analytics back to the business so the business can understand those analytics and generate insights from that analytics. So we shifted the focus into that. And then once we had the goal set, so the goal initially was to give data back to the business. Now we changed that to giving analytics back to the business, big shift. And then we went out to market and did a market evaluation and study. So we looked at, because we came from Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse, we didn't necessarily go back and looked at that particular tool. So we wanted to get more of a neutral system that could work across different systems in our environment. So we have lots of systems similar to many councils. So we primarily looked at Databricks and Fabric. And high-level decision points. We'll talk about why we land on Databricks in the next slide, but high-level decision points, we looked at scalability, governance, AI readiness. I know Janita and Alex have talked on AI readiness. So we looked at those and also cost. So we compared those from when we were doing it. It's about 2 years now. Those were the primary things that we looked into. And once we looked into, we obviously decided on Databricks as the analytics platform of choice. And today it is a central data warehouse that does support our daily governed trusted analytics. By trusted, what I mean is that we have what is called as a medallion architecture. So we have from a raw data source, we go through a medallion architecture. It is not in scope for this discussion, but for those who are thinking about it, if you're not aware of a medallion architecture, please go and look that up. So we have that. So we get trusted data in the end of the medallion architecture. So we have automation built in through that journey in data warehouse. We haven't got to predictive insights and full-on data-driven AI, not Gen AI, but that's definitely the goal. So today it is on that journey. So overall, that's the journey so far in terms of where we started and how we landed on Databricks. Now, the next slide, we'll talk about why specifically Databricks. Now, those of you who are looking at Fabric, we're not necessarily going into a comparison on Fabric and Databricks. This just talks about what was our thinking at the time and why we landed on Databricks. So one of the main reasons for us in Databricks was that we wanted most of our data to be in one platform, or trying to be optimistic here, one platform for all data, because we can drive centralized data warehouse. And why is that the scenario? Why is that the case? Because governance in a council setting is hard. We have challenges on people. We have challenges on resources. We have challenges on getting governance in a unified manner. So having data in a single place enables us to do better governance. So that was one, and obviously it provides that scalability in a different level rather than having it distributed. So that was one of the reasons that why we wanted one platform for all data and AI meaning when we have more of data in one single place, we can apply better principles on the data. We can get trusted analytics on the data. Then our models, once we get into AI-driven modeling, it makes it far more easier. It was primarily from a cost and scalability standpoint. And we'll talk about AI in a moment, but then we wanted to get streamlined data integration. Like I said, we have different systems. The last we know, we have 140 systems in our environment, big and small. So we wanted to get data from all those systems, or we wanted to try, and as much as we are trying to rationalize that environment and bring it down to a reasonable number, we still want to have a streamlined way of integrating data from those downstream and upstream systems. And this enabled us, we use ADF for integration, Azure Data Factory for integration. So it is not, so it's definitely an Azure product, but our overarching goal was to try and get integration using the broader Azure integration toolset. So it enabled us to have more streamlined data integration and look at integration as a capability. So streamlined data integration was definitely one of the other decision-making points for Databricks that we landed on Databricks. And the last one is on advanced analytics capabilities. Like I said, we wanted to build this for the future. We want to start this journey. We wanted to get data in a single place, but we wanted to get advanced analytics so that it's built for the future. And that is all around using more modern integrated tool sets. So we have Python, we have notebooks, Python notebooks. We do all of our data engineering in Python. We talked about AI, built-in AI that the team use quite a bit in Databricks, but we also wanted to get to more of not Gen AI alone. Gen AI is great, but also wanted to get, if we want, once we get to the point of model-driven AI. When I say model-driven AI, I mean the traditional way of getting to AI, which is starting from the descriptive analytics that we typically do to more of getting into predictive analytics, and then finally landing on prescriptive analytics, which is when you start getting the realm of AI. So we wanted to do that for use cases that are deemed appropriate for the city. So because those capabilities are in Databricks, we felt more comfortable in going with Databricks. So those were the main reasons why we went with that high level decision on choosing Databricks, and that this made the case for landing on Databricks and made it a solid proposition for us. And so we had Databricks in our environment for a year now. So what do we get to from an outcome standpoint? So we delivered some use cases, and we also have some outcomes for the business, some great outcomes for the business, I should say. So the first one is on people and culture. So we traditionally had, I don't know if other councils have this challenge, but we traditionally had this challenge of finding out a staffing profile, the number of people in our organization at any particular point in time. And that's an interesting scenario because during summer months, we have a casual workforce that increase, and then it drops off once the peak season is done. And so it happens during touristy season. We do get a peak, then it drops off. So we wanted to get a system that would enable us to see those peaks and understand how staffing is done. And previously, it used to be done on a manual way of using this absolute great tool that you may have all heard about. It's called Microsoft Excel. It's a great tool which the organization uses, but we want to move away from that. So we wanted to get into a platform-driven way where data is reflected every day. So now it's automated, and every day we can understand what a staffing profile is. But beyond that, we want to get a connected view, just not a staffing profile, but make it more interesting. So we combine that staffing details with compliance and recruitment. Compliance meaning there are mandatory trainings similar to all councils that we provide back to our officers. So we want staffing to combine with compliance, which is what we've done, and also recruitment. So that gives us an interesting viewpoint, which was never there before. So it talks about staffing in terms of what is the strength of the organization, but it also talks about, it gave insights to the organization in terms of how long does it take for for a staff to be in our recruitment process to when they are onboarded and when they leave the organization. And combining that with compliance made it a richer, connected view, which is helping the people and culture team make better decisions on workforce. So that was the first use case. The second one was around finance, and that is in the process of, we've done a soft launch. We are in the process of fully rolling that out to the business. But that is in simple terms, it's on budget versus actuals. It's harder than we think, but it's definitely harder than we think in our place. And we found it harder because the traditional way of operating in the business was to reach out to a finance business partner and ask direct questions such as, how's my budget tracking? And am I okay in terms of my budget? But now we've changed that to having close to real time. When I say real time, it is refreshed daily. It's not necessarily real time as in real time happening every second. But we have the daily refreshed dashboard that talks about all our budget and actuals, which is just in the process of being rolled out to all budget owners. Again, the process moved away from lots and lots of Excel to more of a trusted system that is automated, and budget owners can see their budget in front of them so that they can ask more meaningful questions back to their finance business partner. It's not necessarily the direct or low-end questions such as, what is my budget? Versus more of interesting questions such as, so my budget is not tracking properly now. What could I do to put some controls around it? So that is happened, and the organization, we have lots of the financial constraints that most councils have, all councils have, I should say. So the objective is to have this part of the workflow so we can better manage a budget and better put some controls and efficiency targets on it using the implementation that we put forth. The final one as an outcome is data governance. So when we started this journey, we connected Unity Catalog to Microsoft Purview as a starting point for enabling data governance. So we waited for use cases to be deployed before we embarked on a journey of data governance, enabling data governance. Now that we have 2 use cases in place, we are at a point where we've started looking into data governance within the organization. But now that we have this in one single place, which is helping us with that scalability message that I talked about before. We have centralized data cataloging and lineage tracking, and we have pretty much a consistent access control and security all in one single place, which greatly helps our audit efforts. And as we are going through this data governance through Unity Catalog and Microsoft Purview, it's still in the infancy stage, but we have this connectivity now. The objective is to improve data quality and trust across analytics as we go along. So we, as a business, the outcomes from our standpoint that we've been able to deliver back to the broader organization is greater transparency from people and culture standpoint. It's greater transparency on people resources, which is more enriched to connected data rather than just a plain report. The second one is around being financially sustainable. So we are able to better reflect on our financial situation at any particular point in time. So financial decisions are made based on accurate, timely data, which is system-driven, not necessarily massaged by a person. And the third one is around the strong governance that we want in environment, and to enable that journey from looking at data as a control system to making the data more trustworthy through the usage of Unity Catalog and Purview. All right, that is my piece here. I'm going to hand it back to
Thanks, AJ.
To Janita, but I'll be hanging around here if you have any questions.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, AJ, for sharing the story and journey at City of Geelong, Great Geelong. To do all this within the year, to overcome the challenges, to even tackle high value use cases from the get-go and setting up the foundations for governance it's incredible work and just the beginning for the platform and for the greater City of Geelong. So thank you so much. Next up, we have 2 solution architect powerhouses, Pamela Lim and Danny Wong. we're lucky to have them in public sector based in Victoria. So yeah, really excited for this session. So I'll pass over to Pam and Danny. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Janita. So as Janita's mentioned, Danny and I work together across the public sector patch. We look after local councils and also higher ed and utility companies. Without further ado, let me just jump to the next slide. Yeah, so I'd like just to talk about how the data intelligence platform on Databricks is often used for local councils, or what we are actually seeing on the field when we interact with a variety of different customers with different use cases. The slide we have here really just illustrates how Databricks enables local councils to drive data convergence and to be able to democratize that AI piece across scale, across all your core functions as well. Typically, what we see with a lot of local councils, if you look at the left-hand side, we'll see a broad spectrum of data sources that are very typical. You've got things like IoT and telemetry for maybe smart bins or traffic sensors. You have ERP and finance systems. You also have CRM and ticketing for resident interactions. We also often see GIS and spatial data, which Danny will be touching on in a short while, all the way to your asset registers and things like your demographic assets as well. So councils often struggle to unify these, but Databricks really helps you to bring them all together in that one seamless environment. Really, at the core of our architecture is the Lakehouse. It's secured and governed by the likes of our data governance solution called Unity Catalog. So, meaning this enables all your structured, unstructured, your historical, your real-time data to be able to be accessed with that trust and confidence, whether, regardless of the data formats that actually come through and what you're using underneath. So sitting on top of that lakehouse is our full, what we call the data intelligence platform, where you can actually operate as 100% serverless as well for complete simplicity and scalability. We also give you the controls, like AJ's mentioned, so that cost management piece, disaster recovery, enterprise security, a lot of things that are typically top of mind and big concern for local councils. So the platform really drives value for a variety of different users. You've got Mosaic AI that powers your machine learning and generative AI that lets you enable things like forecasting, planning, automated insights. You also have Databricks SQL that gives you that sort of governed reporting and dashboarding for staff at all levels. You've got workflows and DLT, which help you to handle ETL streaming analytics so you can operationalize these insights very quickly. And then finally, you have AI BI, which is something I'll be doing a demo of shortly. This really brings that business intelligence to everyone across the entire organization, regardless of your technical background, regardless of your persona. So we do this through a native dashboarding capability, through natural language and self-service analytics. And then finally, on the right, you can see how this unified approach supports that, really important outcome for local government. You get to support use cases such as smart urban planning, development. You get better service delivery and citizen experience. We see it used a lot in terms of sustainable resourcing, so financial management, resource allocation, and budgeting. Beyond that, also, I think a lot of a North Star for local councils today, speaking to a lot of you, is smart city operations and livability. So, being able to combine all of that and power that with a secure, intelligent platform. So Databricks, I think, in summary, really gives councils the tools to unify that data, to turn a lot of that siloed data into smarter services, to enable that strategic decision making, so you can really impact community while actually keeping your governance and your costs firmly in control. All right. So again, I think every community that you serve is unique. They have a variety of different councils who are here today. So really the question is, why rely on generic or one-size-fits-all solutions from providers that maybe don't really know your local needs? With the data intelligence platform, you really can cater and tailor a lot of these components that I just spoke about with the variety of tools and tool set that I just described. So with Unity Catalog, with your ETL capability of Lakeflow pipelines, full-fledged machine learning and agentic capabilities on the platform, and also us being able to support real-time streaming use cases. So just to reiterate, I think data and AI really transforms every stage of that local council lifecycle so that you can really get those strategic outcomes. We start with that Citizen 360, with councils being able to then provide residents with things like access to portals where they can request for services, for benefits and support. You also get a unified view that lets your staff serve citizens better with context-rich profiles. You also have predictive maintenance that helps you leverage things like real-time data and analytics, so you can schedule maybe things like timely repairs, upkeep for roads and vehicles in public buildings. We move on to more proactive care workflows where you can use geolocation or sensor data to maybe proactively, alert residents or local works about potential hazards, very much like Melbourne today, or the strong winds we're going to be having, or even in Sydney, the heat wave, right? So being able to improve that communication and trust between the council and its residents. You also have urban planning and strategic development that can rely on data-driven analysis for community trends and assets to guide smart and equitable growth of your investments. And finally, financial sustainability, which really lets councils model things like budgets and forecasts. Given the time and budget constraints that you face, it's really important to be able to optimize resource allocation so that you can get that long-term service delivery for the community. Right. Without further ado, what I'll do is I'll actually jump into one of the components that I talked about earlier and I alluded to. So AIBI is a self-service sort of capability that's available on the platform. Then I think we've seen a lot of success with many councils and also just apart from also in just the public sector in general, even in higher education and utilities, something that our customers have really gained a lot of insight and a lot of benefit from using some of these tools. So every enterprise wants to be able to democratize data and AI for all their employees, but I think really to be able to compete and innovate, organizations need to move beyond restricting data and AI to just technical teams. When every employee can access and use data and tools, whether they're in operations or sales or marketing, you want to be able to always proactively be able to spot trends and solve problems so that you can make better decisions without having to wait on for technical support. So the reality is that BI tools often come with another data silo. So every system typically will end up with its own set of data sets, definitions, or governance rules. That means teams often try to spend time trying to keep everything in sync, whereas some groups might even have to buy extra BI licenses just to access or share the right data. So performance can also be a big challenge here. A lot of teams are often forced between having to choose between extracting data for speed or running direct queries. This can be very slow and frustrating as your data sets grow. And then if you bolt on an AI assistant to your BI layer, then that value then tends to become quite limited as well. These assistants only know what's already been curated inside of the BI system, and usually lack that deeper context and understanding of the underlying data platform. So Databricks is in a very unique position to offer a BI solution that's built directly on the same platform where your data lives. First of all, it's because of that unification of architecture. Janita previously mentioned because we have that lakehouse architecture, there's really no need for you to maintain separate environments for analytics, for reporting, or for machine learning. So meaning that your data governance, your security, your business logic really only needs to be managed once in the one place, meaning that there's a less likelihood for your policy to, for things like policy drift or inconsistency between your data as it moves between tools. It also allows for very fast performance at scale. Your performance remains very consistent even as your volumes of data grows because Databricks has really been designed for large-scale analytics from day one. It's also going to be able to give you intelligence that's very context-aware. So our Databricks AI understands not just tabular data, but also the relationships and lineage, as well as business patterns that then present itself throughout the organization. Your queries and insights can take context from how data was actually used, as opposed to static schemas. So you can get more relevant, more accurate answers, especially when requirements are changing very quickly. Right, so this really deeper knowledge about AI can then support real business scenarios as opposed to relying on one-size-fits-all results that might work in demos but really struggle in production when you're trying to scale them. So AI BI is our AI-powered business intelligence offering, hence the name. It has two complementary capabilities, dashboards and what we call Genie rooms. So dashboards is our native dashboarding capability. You can think about it as sort of our answer to a Tableau or Power BI. It's a low-code experience to help analysts be able to build highly interactive visualizations that allows you to interact with it via natural language. So it's supercharged with your AI functionalities. It makes data very much accessible to non-technical users. Genie, on the other hand, is our conversational analytics tool that lets business users then talk to their data and ask questions and self-serve their own analytics. One of the strengths of this approach is that our AI BI capability works natively with Unity Catalog semantics. So instead of every dashboard or report having to redefine metrics in its own way, you only need to define a single set of measures or dimensions and relationships within the Databricks platform. So these definitions will then flow automatically into every AI BI dashboard or Genie space, or even any SQL client. So everyone is sort of working from that same baseline. To reiterate, what makes this different is the central governance aspect. So every metric, dimension, and business rule is maintained in the one place. This includes things like certifications, data access policies. They're automatically apply anywhere the data is used. Right. But while a good dashboard answers many questions, right, so a dashboard can sort of answer a lot of very pertinent questions for an organization. You really can only anticipate a very small amount of the questions that users ask. So imagine you're a data analyst working in a local council. You're attending a weekly executive meeting, and your boss turns to you and says, "We've noticed a sharp rise in service requests over the weekend. So can you tell me how many of these came from residents who have contacted us before versus first-time users?" Then they might ask you to break it down by suburb or by the service type. So, which neighborhood saw the biggest jump? What were the top issues or services requested? They might ask you about trends. How can you ensure that we have the right resources in place in the future to respond to these residents faster and during the next holiday period, for example? It's a common pain point for a lot of council analysts. So being expected to answer and drill down to questions on the spot, to turn around quickly, give follow-ups, and translate the data into clear actions for community impact. So these are very dynamic and layered questions that are posed every single day, but a lot of dashboards aren't actually pre-built to answer those. You really can only bake in pre-canned answers into dashboarding tools. I think behind the scenes, BI developers, data analysts, you're all expected to deliver very flexible and interactive dashboards that can evolve quickly with these questions. So, but really, what if you could talk to your data? That is where the AI BI Genie capability comes in. Right? So for this exact reason, Databricks has built AI BI Genie. Genie is, as I've mentioned before, a conversational analytics tool that literally lets you talk to your data. So instead of relying on dashboards, you can actually get questions, ask questions in natural language and get governed and secure answers from AI. It tailors responses to your business domain. So the insights are relevant and context aware. It's not just pulling answers from thin air. It's using your curated data assets as a foundation. So users can also then openly engage in Q&A directly with enterprise data. Genie actually remembers the conversation thread, so you can pick up where you left off. Users will receive responses back in natural language, tabular data, as well as visualizations. So it boasts context-aware intelligence. It isn't actually answering your questions in isolation. it will actually have full awareness of your data and queries within your dashboard. So meaning it can actually leverage all the context to deliver very relevant answers that are tailored to your specific business environment. You don't have to translate all of your questions into technical jargon. It gets smarter over time with user behavior and feedback, so your insights actually become even more accurate and relevant. Meaning, essentially, the more you use Genie, the smarter it's going to get. If it isn't sure of the right answer, it will actually proactively seek clarification from the user to refine its understanding and also avoid risk of hallucination or incorrect responses. And finally, its AI-generated insights are also governed and secured by Unity Catalog. Every query, whether it's through dashboards or Genie, is enforced by Unity Catalog's access policies. So users can only see the data that they're authorized to access. There's also built-in monitoring to make sure that every question and response is reviewed. You can give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, or feedback that will actually, again, help to improve the accuracy over time. Right, so Genie can actually run inside tools, so things like dashboards or external applications that people are already used to at work. So there's no need for you to switch platforms or change routines. If someone needs focused Q&A, they can actually use dedicated Genie spaces set up by the data team. It's also built into AI BI dashboards, so users can ask follow-up questions within the reports itself. And also for broader access, Genie can connect with external applications through its API, meaning that you can integrate it with tools like Slack or Teams that are used every day. So people don't really have to change the way they work day to day in order to use Genie. All right, so without further ado, let me share my screen and I'll hopefully be able to bring up a demo for everyone. All right, let me know when everyone can see that. Yeah. Awesome. So this is what a Genie room or a Genie space is going to look like. I've built one that sort of mirrors what a council might want to do when it comes to looking and interrogating finance allocation and resource optimization. So I built a couple of data sets based on maybe things like annual budget allocation, looking at things like service demand outcomes and over time, what budget variance or revenues come through for different major projects, how you can use that to allocate things like your resource and workforce allocation, very pertinent and relevant to what AJ had described before. So this is a Genie room. Again, you can think about it as a chatbot that's very much trained and specialized on your data and your semantics. So on the right-hand side, what I've done is I've built in and brought in a couple of tables that we've used for that pertain to a lot of this financial data. You might extract this from your ERP systems, you might extract this from Oracle or SAP, for example, and collected them over time. Again, I've brought this in entirely from Unity Catalog. You might be seeing a theme here, but a lot of things that, a lot of the way that features operate on Databricks, it requires Unity Catalog to be that point of entry, meaning that you always get that governance, control, and access embedded into everything that you use. What you do when you set up a Genie space, again, is that you bring in things like this data. You also provided instructions, general instructions on how this Genie room can be used. I haven't actually provided anything at this stage, but in the description here, you can see that we're using this Genie room for users to be able to interact with these data sets and actually explore and model the financial position and resource allocation for a local council. Right, so it will use, again, things like the budget, the spending, the revenue, and service data. So maybe someone who, the likes of a business analyst who has questions about data that they can't actually find answers to in a pre-baked or pre-built dashboard. They can actually come to a Genie room and ask questions about, maybe different areas of concern that they might have. So I'm going to ask Genie a question. I'm going to ask it to display revenue trends by its source. So give me things like the rates, the grants, the fees, and fines across the last 3 years. What it will do is it will return three things. Right, so it's thinking for a bit. It's actually going to give me back a summary of the question I've been asking. the result set of it below, and also an accompanying visualization where it actually sees it fit. Right. So it's actually given me a very comprehensive answer. Told me that revenue from rates had peaked in 2003 and it's dropped sharply in 2024. It's given me back that result set as well on the actual data that's come through from the data sets that I've added here in the Genie room, and finally a visualization that I can also edit. So it's given me back a line graph, and if I decide that perhaps a line graph is not how I want to represent it, I can choose to have it in the bar or pie chart as well. So the nice thing about this is that I've asked it a natural language question. It's responded back to me in natural language in a way that's very understandable for the likes of someone who maybe can't write the SQL or doesn't have the time to be able to produce results like this because I don't know the domain. I don't have that depth of domain knowledge for the data set that underpins this Genie room. But if I do, I can actually break glass and look at the code that's been generated under the hood. So this is a text to SQL capability that will sort of translate a lot of the natural language that I've asked into SQL that sort of makes sense in the context of the data. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit further and then actually ask it another question. So I'm going to ask it about the variance in forecasted and actuals for a lot of programs that I've run, perhaps. Right? So again, it's going to go off and think. It's going to be able to tell me, again, the analysis on the data set that it's performed on, the natural language answer on whether it's identified significant variance between spending across all programs. And again, it's going to return that result set below, and also an accompanying visualization that you might be interested in as well. So ultimately, I think what Genie is able to provide is that conversational self-service analytics capability for a lot of councils that I think really sometimes struggle to find the time and struggle to find the resources to be able to then build a lot of these data sets together. Genie rooms can also integrate with the likes of dashboarding, as we talked about. So if you've pre-baked a dashboard and you already have data sets that you've curated, Genie can actually, with our AI system under the hood, glean a lot of the information and make context-driven answers and reasoning based on the semantics that you've provided as well. So that's it in a nutshell. And without further ado, I'm going to flick it over to Danny, who will be talking on the geospatial analytics capabilities that exist on the platform. All right, over to you, Danny.
Thanks. Thank you, Pam. So my name is Danny Wong. So I'm a solution architect, same team as Pam, also supporting public sector clients. So today I'm going to share with you an overview of geospatial processing, geospatial analytics on Databricks, especially focusing on council's use cases. So I guess Janita and Pam gave us an overview of Lakehouse. So on Databricks Lakehouse, what we are trying to do is to consolidate all the data platform into a single one, and then you can analyze data no matter that is structure, unstructured, geo or non-geo. So for us, geospatial data is just another data type. You can govern the same way using Unity Catalog. You can process the same way using the Spark engine. And on the platform itself, two common use case, if you got data from your source systems like ArcGIS as an example, or other geospatial sources, you can use Databricks for ETL. So you can transform the data, you can clean the data, you can transform that from one projection systems to the other by using the Spark parallel processing engine. So that like if you got a huge amount of data, you can run that at scale. And the other capability on the Lakehouse is the spatial SQL feature. So this is a new addition to the platform, which gives you off-the-shelf capability to run a lot of geospatial functions, which we call ST function. So say, for example, like if you want to find out what are the assets within a particular suburbs or council boundary, basically you can use that ST function for that. And in the latest release, we also introduced the geospatial types as well, which basically helps you to store the data in a very efficient format. So in terms of size and in terms of speed as well. And we also got H3 indexing. So this is hexagonal indexing systems that help you to index the complex geometry object into numbers. So if we can get combine those numbers by joining those tables using that H3 index, that will also help us to run all those geospatial joins in a very efficient manner. So Spatial SQL is a new capability that it is currently in public preview now. So you can use it, you can try it, you can test it. The only requirement is if you are running classic Databricks runtime, the requirement is 17.1 or above. If you're using serverless, there's no issue for that at all. You can use it in a notebook environment. You can also use it for SQL as well. So we got more than 80 spatial functions, ST functions support in this release. And we also got H3 indexing as well. You can index your geometry into a single data model with H3, and then you can use that for a complex spatial join, especially useful when you are dealing with a huge amount of data. So I think three compelling reasons why Databricks for geospatial. First of all, with the H3 approach, you can combine a large volume of data in a very short amount of time. The second thing is like we support large amount of like different different formats. So say for example, like you might getting data from shapefiles, from GeoJSON, or from external GIS tools like ArcGIS as an example. So we support all this common geospatial format. And at the end of the day, I think compliance and governance is the key. If we can do all this geospatial processing on the same platform, you can govern the spatial and non-spatial data all using Unity Catalog, using the same permission model. You will get all the audit trail, etc., to keep your data safe. So Pam talked a bit on Genie. That is our conversation interface. You can ask natural language questions. And it also supports geospatial. So you can ask geospatial questions. We can show point map on Genie. And you can also use Genie outside of Databricks environment as well. So if you prefer to use it in Microsoft Teams as an example, you can also run it there. So and we also support more complex visualization with Databricks apps. So Databricks apps is a capability that you can host your Python applications or React front end on Databricks. And with that, you can have more complex visualization. You can have your own branding. You can custom the end user experience as well, instead of like worrying about spinning up some VM somewhere or like spinning up your Kubernetes clusters. You don't have to worry about that. You just simply develop, write the code, and then leave the heavy lifting for us. We will host that for you. So some of the use case, this is a use case with Osro. So in their situation, they have a lot of heavy vehicle that is streaming and sending that telematics data live is a real-time streaming use case. So what they are trying to do is to use Databricks for quality checks to make sure that the data that is coming in is in good quality and exclude those bad data. And then they want to do some spatial matching by matching the vehicle location on state, on LGA, locality, road. This is all done in real time. And then they would like to create some aggregation, some reporting from that, and then write it back to ArcGIS visualization. So GIS tools like ArcGIS is very good at spatial visualization. So that's why we are the one doing those like processing, cleaning, joining, and then we are just writing back the results back to tools like ArcGIS for visualization. So this is one of the real-time use case by Osro using Databricks for geospatial processing. The other example is permit assessment. So I guess right now for planning applications, the planning officers may have to check a few things from different systems, different maps to see like whether there's any overlays for that particular address. if we can provide a scalable platform for the planning officers to ask questions to see whether that address is within a particular overlay zones, that will also help to reduce the assessment time and then make the decision and application process time a lot quicker. And this is another example, like I'm trying to map some of the household address with the flood zone. So this is the flood data that I've got from the public WakeGov website. So this is a 2022 flood zones. So if I want to try to map the address with the flood zones, we can do all this processing on Databricks and then finding all the address there so that you can proactively alert the citizen within those areas on the potential flood rates. So I think integration is the key because in the geospatial world, there's a lot of different partners, a lot of different toolings. So for us, we are working very closely with all these geospatial partners like Kato, for an example. They can connect directly to Databricks. S3 is commonly used by a lot of councils and government agencies, so we got integration with them, so we can read data from S3 feature service layer. We can also write back to S3 for visualization. Common tooling like FME, which is geospatial ETL tools, they can read data from Databricks. They can also write data back to us as well. So in terms of integration with S3, there's a number of integration patterns, pretty dependent on the use case. If you are reading data ad hoc from ArcGIS from a feature service layer, you can use the ArcGIS API. We also offer a lakehouse federation capability, which you can talk to the geodatabase at the backend to read data. And on Databricks right now, we also got a lake-based offering. So this is a managed PostgreSQL. So if you are using PostGIS today, it's just an easy lift and shift to lake-based, which we will manage the infrastructure for you. And you just simply enable the PostGIS extension, and then you can use lake-based for transactional geospatial use case. S3 also offers a tooling called GeoAnalytics Engine. It's a more advanced tools that if you want to use some of the ArcGIS desktop tooling in a Python world, try to parallelize it on the Spark clusters, then GeoAnalytics Engine is a tool that is pretty handy that you can calculate like the origin destination matrix. You can create like a service area, things like that. And of course, like if you're using FME today, as I shared in the last slide, FME allows you to write data from us, and you can also use JDBC to connect to S3 as well. So these are some of the common integration pattern. So before I hand off to Will, I will probably just very quickly share my screen to share a quick demo. Desktop. Okay, so I'm not going to show any code, so I just simply show some visualization. So this is a data set that I've got from the WakeGov websites on accidents, Victorian accidents. So you can see like on the AI/BI dashboard, you can easily put together a graph based on your geospatial data. So in this case, I got all this point data, which is indicating the number of accidents. So the color itself is the different is indicating different LGAs, and the bubble size is talking about the number of accidents there. And as Pam shared, we can also integrate with Genie as well. So basically, you can ask questions here on the data that you've got. And for other type of visualization, you can also do that on the notebook as well. So there's another option. So in this case, the base map here, I'm using WebMap, which is offered by Department of Transport and Planning. And then on top of that, I am just trying to find out what are the road infrastructure, like signals, roundabouts as an example, which is the red dots, which is within this polygon. So for this particular processing, if we are using H3, it's really, really quick. So the size is quite big. Basically, I just got the entire data set from the government website, but it only takes around 3 seconds to run this query. So with that, you can easily find out like all the area of interest that is within a particular boundary. And you can also do things like a more advanced use case as well. So in this case, the green dots is the accident spots. If I want to find out where is the nearest police station, um, at the backend, I'm using a routing engine that find out the shortest path from the police station to the accident spot. And it will also tell me like the distance and also the travel time as well. So this is another example that we can do it pretty easily on the Databricks platform. So I think that's pretty much on my side on geospatial. So it's my pleasure to introduce Will. So Will is the next speaker from City of Melbourne. So will be sharing the City of Melbourne journey on governance and AI. So I will pass it over to you, Will.
Thanks so much, Danny. Just checking you can hear me all right. I'm going to try and share my screen if that's okay. Just might save a bit of clicking for Janita and team. Let me get up and running. So, just Danny, can I get a quick thumbs up if you can see my screen okay? Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Danny. So, my name is Will McIntosh. I'm Head of Data Platforms and Governance at City of Melbourne. I'm going to take a step back here because we've been talking a lot about these advanced data products and amazing new tools, and that's exactly where we want to be. But what we're going to talk about is how we actually enrich this data and those data products with really strong data governance and how that is actually running through our Databricks model as well. What I'll do, I think I've got about 20 minutes, so I want to cover through how we embedded data governance into our data products at City of Melbourne. Look, the outcome from this is Learning Com's approach to data governance and strategic data platforms management. I really want the outcome to be that you love data governance, but I took it out because I didn't want to be too topical. I'll run through really quickly our approach, and I'll step back and just go through our Databricks instance, how we created value and efficiency, not just risk and compliance, not the boring stuff. It's actually about how you turbocharge those AI rooms and Genie rooms that the team have talked about so far. And I'll share a use case. We're going to share a use case where our data governance actually became a data source into Databricks, and then how that feeds into AI as well. Final one, I'm going to be super open and share our lessons learned. So I'm going to have a pretty open talk today. It's not just going to be Databricks, it's going to be a bit about our ecosystem, just so you can see the whole picture of how it works. So let me run through. So look, as a local government, we hold a lot of critical data, property addresses, heritage, planning, customer health data, and that's the importance and the management of that is becoming so critical. And we have valid reasons for holding that. We have a lot of critical services for our community. We require it for robust billing and legislative reporting, but it's also an opportunity to guide that strategic decision making and how we can build in data governance to that. If there's questions down the track, there's a model there that supports that as well. So at City Melbourne, our Databricks instance is known as Com Data Central. It really supercharges what we call our data ecosystem. So at the heart of it, we've got Com Data Central. We had a previous separate platform, forgive us, Pam and Danny. It was a Postgres server that sat outside. We're integrating that back to our Com Data Central at the moment. Our traditional SQL server was separate to our enterprise data management, so that's now being brought into Com Data Central. This platform powers our open data platform as well. I would consider our open data platform examples of data products, and I'll share through an example of why that's really important as well. It's becoming more important. So there was a question in the chat. Executives, they want information now. They want it yesterday. So how we speed that up, that's what we're running through AJ's example of the gold layer. And we've got some really good examples where that's saving us so much time as well. And data ownership. So our data governance team at City Melbourne is John Wright, doing an amazing amount of work with a new Power App that's become that data source. So Com Data Central effectively becomes the heart of all of our operations at City Melbourne. But I'm not going to just talk about Databricks. I'm going to talk a little bit about how it supports other products as well. So data without governance isn't an asset. It becomes a liability. There's questions about who manages it, what's the accuracy, can I trust it? And it can erode it against the trust of a whole data program itself. So at City of Melbourne, we've had examples where I was in a live demo. showing a 3D map. It's fantastic. I extruded trees by value, which was the height in our asset system. I had the question in the demo, what's that one? What's happening here? Who manages this data? There might be an issue. There was a tree that was 1,000 kilometers tall, so it actually went into space. And you get into a position as a data platform owner. Who do I go back to? Who fixes that? Because we want to come back from that source of truth. But if we're moving into that AI and data product lens, there's always going to be that maturity of how we manage it. And who do I go back to? Who's the data steward? Who's the data owner for that? So I want to talk about City of Melbourne's data governance and how it's enriched by Databricks. It's not totally in Databricks, but it's supercharged by how we use AI and Unity Catalog in Databricks. That really helps us speed up things. So we saw data governance not just as risk and compliance. We wanted to lift that maturity of data management across the enterprise. So we focus on building trust for our data, giving transparency of what the data is, who manages it. We reduce risk because we want to understand where it's being stored, how it's protected. And also we want to increase the value of data. So where people can find it, trust it, and use it really helps our entire enterprise. Ours is really simple. It's effectively a document, a framework, which gives us clarity on what is a data role at City of Melbourne. That comes up a lot. What's a data steward? What's a data owner? So we've got a document that explains that, and we're happy to share that across any local government agency as well. We have an operating model that comes from executives down to technical working groups. That means that the standards and the enterprise approach is driven from the top and then embedded with feedback given back up to executives through that operating model. Something I'm going to touch on as well is we have different data domains. So we understand that different data isn't the same, and there might be different standards for customer data than there is asset data, and the people best placed to make those decisions are the experts in those areas. So we've carved that up and taken a bit of an approach. And point 4 is a really important one. So we needed a source of truth across data ownership across all of City of Melbourne. That's not just the data inside Databricks. That's one part of it, but for every single data set across City of Melbourne, physical data, so printed documents as well as electronic data, we needed to know what that is and how we could protect it. The strategy was simple. So why don't we just build a list of who manages which data set? Why don't we make it really clear? Just a 2-page data governance framework so people could get it and read it through really quickly. And then establish that operating model to empower work areas. So it's not IT being blockers anymore. It's actually work areas have the power and responsibility across the organization that feeds into Databricks as well. And then we can create that loop. We deliver all these steps, and then we have insights and AI to help us optimize where are we not having really strong data governance. And that's that flywheel. That's that loop we run across pretty much every week in our teams. I did touch data domains. I'm just going to really quickly show these. So these are the different data domains we have across City of Melbourne, and this really helps to simplify things. So where there's a question on environment data or climate data, finance data, we now have ownership where the data domain owners can actually tell us the standards they want to apply. They can apply data quality SLAs. We want our customer data, for example, to be 99.9%. Well, where are we now? So we can actually have that really robust monitoring and evidence base. Some are easier than others. I'd say employees, pretty straightforward, owned by HR director. Others are more complex. Customer, we probably have about 7 different areas that's managed. So having that as a single domain owner that covers the whole organization is really helpful. And that's a bit of a hybrid model that's working really well for us. And they are typically a senior leader. So they're a director at the moment, but we have got strong interest from the executives at the GM level as well. Look, let's be controversial. Data governance shouldn't just be compliance, shouldn't just be ticking boxes. This is really important how it can create efficiencies through new platforms like Databricks. So typically when we're making a decision, these are the steps at a high level we might go through. Where's the data? I need to analyze, I need to clean it, I need to get an insight, I need to create that into information. Hopefully I make a good decision, and hopefully there's a good outcome for that council. At analyzing insights, you typically have your data products. I'm thinking public maps. Open data, I mentioned, is a data product as well. And AI, it would be for us a data product too. And where we want to be is those outcomes. We want to have fantastic outcomes for City of Melbourne. But what we find is we ask the question, how long are people how are people going? We're trying to locate data. So a few years back, we wanted to understand the current state. On average per week, how long were people spending to even look for data, let alone clean it? And we did a massive survey across our organization. I might just ask the chat, chuck in the chat, how, on average, how long do you think people were searching for data? I'll just give people a second to put it in there, and might be Danny, if you just want to look at it in about 20 seconds and you can tell me what that is. So this is the key for us, because me as a platform owner, if I can save enterprise time to help people find data, help people understand the cleanliness of it and the quality, what would be the quantum level of impact? Danny, sing out if there's a figure, if there's some rough figures there. If not, I'll give it away now. I can see chat's got maybe a couple of messages. Danny, anything you want to read out?
Yeah, I think people are quite shy in this call. So I just got one 10 hours. The other is 5 hours per branch per week.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
It's pretty close, actually. I'm not sure who that first one was, but what we found, 8 hours per week on average for these data roles across the City of Melbourne spent searching for data before we had that centralized ownership model and Databricks platform. That's a massive figure. So that helps to build the business case originally, how we brought in Databricks and streamline some of this. I won't share what it's gone down to just yet. I'll come back to that. So this is where data governance really supercharges our data products, because from the locating to data to the outcomes, we now have the ability to scale, because we're not bogged down in those initial areas of where is the data, can I trust it? So we can actually scale a lot better. I mentioned open data as a data product. If you put out things like open data without quality data governance ownership, data quality information, this is where you'll get bogged down by questions and where's this data come from? When was it refreshed? You're caught up in the low maturity area that I refer to. And then we get thousands of these emails. How often is the data updated? What quality is it? So if we've got no data governance there, it's really hard to scale, because each data product you put out with, you'll be being put out spot fires for those ones. You're trapped in that left side. You can't quite get to the outcomes at an enterprise scale. So this is where we created that source of truth for data ownership. One register to rule them all. Don't mean to do buzzword bingo. We created a simple power app. We asked the business to enter their critical information assets into that, and we ingest that into our Databricks platform. So work areas register the information. That can cover paper, can cover electronic records, and it connects the data and the information assets back to the work area that manages it. So this is where, for the first time ever, you've started to got that fact base there of who's managing what and who's the owner of which data set across the organization. So simply put, what's the data, who manages it, and how business critical is it? For those other local governments who have to do an information asset register, this is to our OVIC standards. So OVIC tells us they want us to collect this information. We did not want a spreadsheet for it, so we sent up a quick power app for it. Just really quickly, we built that internally, roughly probably a couple of weeks to start to finish. With our internal team, we asked each branch across the organisation to nominate a data champion. We then ran sessions for those data champions, and from start to finish, around 2 months, we had all of the council's information in there and roughly 40 different data champions across the organisation. Now we have the opportunity to refresh that into Databricks. And what that does is it gives a really interesting perspective, because we can now start to quantify and see what's happening. So this metadata we collected became a really interesting source of truth. So work areas would get in there, they would search through this Power App, see what data is managed across the organization, and they would start to search. And they would start to go, oh, look, there's a couple of data sets across the organization that we might want to chat. And it reduced the time of asking in the office, who manages that dog leash data? I think Jane manages it. Give her a call, and people are kind of stuck. Oh, and then Jane says, I'll call Graham. This is a source of truth you can go to, but it's also supercharged into Databricks as well. It's linked to Unity Catalog. So it links both ways. It's ingested into that Databricks, but also if you've got the Catalog Explorer open, you can see the system table here, and you can actually link back. So the IR reference there, 2795, if I click that, brings back the ownership information. So now if I'm in Databricks and I've got questions, I can't even see this data and I've got questions about it, you don't have to contact Will anymore. You can contact that work area directly, and you can see that information straight away. What we also did was we could then track which area is managing their data really well. So this one matches back for all of the records that are being put in. Are they filling out all the information? Are they filling out the risk information? Are they filling out who manages it? And we gamified it. So each branch could see each other's performance, and we on purpose celebrated the teams that hit 100%, where they actually entered all their data. They did a really good job of it. It's entered within the last 12 months and kept up to date. And we said, "Oh, city strategy, amazing! You know, legal team, amazing! You're incredible." And then other teams were like, well, "What's ours? Oh, we're 25%. Hey, how do we get up to that level?" So since going live, we've had 11,000 updates to it, and it's just become this fantastic data source for us. So gamifying it really helped. The domain owners also get really detailed reports. So for the first time ever, now having the data into Databricks refreshed into BI, we could see where's all of customer data across City of Melbourne. Where's the risky data sets? Where's critical data sets being stored in spreadsheets? Where we might want to consider bringing that back into a corporate system. So these are insights that really help to inform our teams. What happened since then as well is the cyber team and business continuity teams picked it up and said, we could do some advanced reporting for this. You know, where is really PII data being stored? How do we understand where that is so they can talk to those work areas and actually proactively address risks before they come up as well. So this is where connecting data ownership back to data operations was fantastic. Roughly about 500 data sets registered. Reminder, these are not just Databricks data sets, that's anything. And that data ownership is continually reviewed and audited. And that's where that fact base was really important for data quality. So data tools enable and support, but that data governance is all about the people. So I know I'm going a bit off brand here, not talking tech and code, but this is why it's so important. When you deploy those data products, you know, how do you support your data stewards and data custodians with training and support, empowering them to make decisions and being informed of, you know, giving access or not to certain data sets. We also do, you know, sharing openly a bit of coaching for them, and sometimes influencing when they don't feel confident. We work with them and understand the concerns and bring them on the journey as well. And this is where we come from data to product. So just sharing 2 AI use cases, Pam and Danny and Janita. There's so much more we can go into here. I'm going to skip through pretty quickly, but with the promise, we're happy to deep dive into this or any of the other AI products we work on the next few months. So confession, I can't code anymore. I need to get back into that. Need some weekend homework. But where the Databricks team showed that tools like Databricks Genie, I could easily create a Genie room to actually search all of those data sets I mentioned before that were stored in our Power App. Because it's ingested into Databricks as a data set, with a few button presses, I was able to create that AI supported room where for this one I typed in find all tree data sets now across that register. And that was fantastic because it actually searched across all those records and I could have a conversation with it for the first time. So the point here was it's now moving from on-premise to cloud. It's super simple to deploy things we never thought possible, but also a product like this helps to save our council's time massively to, you know, find data sets they might not have been able to find before. I mentioned before how we search for data and how we make a decision, how we have outcomes, roughly 8 hours per week spent searching for data. Now what we've seen with Unity Catalog and this Power App, we're seeing a reduction of 90% for time savings of people finding data and finding clean data, knowing who to contact and the ownership across the organization. That's now down to less than an hour per week because I can search for it. There's now a data source that's there that's no longer calling up Jane on the phone and trying to track that down and having a nightmare experience within an organization. It's a system there that supports our employees, which is a massive business case for any council thinking about how they can get into this and bring their executives on the journey as well. We're happy to share any of these slides and business cases we put up as well for other councils too. The other one I'll touch on, for those who were at MAV conference last week, this was the knowledge bank we've deployed. So we actually use Social Pinpoint to collect community data based on location across the city on a range of topics. We ingest that into Databricks and create a comprehensive view of all engagements we've ever done. And that really helps to centralize the feedback and save our team's time to know, when do we ask about climate change? What areas gave feedback? For our council plan right now, we use this ability to actually put out questions to the community, and we could see neighborhoods that were responding and neighborhoods that weren't. And so we wanted to have that broad feedback. So we had that ingested into Databricks from Social Pinpoint, and we could see that and be proactively addressing where we wanted to engage certain areas of the community. And AI really helped to speed that up. So AI within Databricks, what are the themes coming out? What are the themes over time? To Danny's point, what are the themes by location? Where's certain topics really important? Because each neighborhood has got their own needs across the city of Melbourne as well. And key here is it's all governed. So all of this data is locked down, protected. It's got ownership models, and that's embedded into our IR and also Databricks as well. So that's been a massive fact base to support our organization and speed us up as well. We could do a deep dive on this one because there's so much more, and Eliza and team have done such a great job. And this one was the one that won the MAV Leadership and Data-Driven Innovation. So congrats to the team if they're on the call today. We are on a journey, so we've touched on some of our AIs, AI data products, but we're getting so much support, and our executives are pushing us to think about what other areas, because our data and data governance is so well managed now, we can scale and we can work on this because the data's there, it's governed, and that really helps us to make sure it's trusted and it's protected as well. In closing, look, Databricks really helps to power our data governance program, but also gives insights and protection to our data sets as well. Mentioned we had 90% faster data discovery, but now it's linked back between data to ownership. And Will now no longer approves ownership, approves access to data. The data owners do that. So it's faster and it's more visible for us across the organization. And people are becoming more confident. They know which area is managing it. And if there's a mistake like the tree, they know who to talk to. That saves us time as well. We do have a lot more in the background we're working through in terms of robust data lineage and what would be data cataloging. I might touch on that in a future session just because it gets into a lot of detail for that one. Lessons learned, so data governance helps really to power those products. So the AI rooms, the Genie rooms that were shown before, the work like AJ's been doing, if you have your data governance built into that, that's going to help you later on. And it supports your people. So it helps to speed them up. It helps to protect our data. And this is fundamental, how we scale, how do we continue this journey as well. We don't want to be bogged down in those questions in terms of who manages it? Can I rely on this? Because that drives us wild. A quick shout out to the Databricks support team, Danny, Pam, Janita, Alex and team, and Matt. They've just been amazing for us. So they come across, they've trained up our users, they've run data and donut sessions. So a quick shout out to them. What you see today is just an example of they're really helpful, and they've just been one of the best vendors, or probably the best vendor we've ever worked with. So thank you so much, team, and thanks for the opportunity today. I might leave it there. And happy to stay around for questions, but hopefully that adds some value in terms of the operating model for Databricks at City of Melbourne.
No, thank you so much, Will. Thank you so much for your presentation. Honestly, awesome work, and a lot of consideration and effort has gone into building that governance framework, and Will's definitely leading the charge there with an incredible team behind him. And thanks for reiterating that people are definitely the center of all of this. So yeah, thank you for reiterating that. So yeah, we're at the end of the session. Thank you to our incredible speakers here today. I'd love to open up for Q&A. I think Alex will be getting people off mute, I think, hopefully. But happy to answer some of the questions in the chat. I know Pam and Danny have been kindly moderating the chat in the meantime, but if there's any follow-ups, we're happy to continue the conversation. Maybe I'll start with this last question in the end. How does it handle orphan data sets when users leave the organizations, or when portfolios change and data collection is abandoned? Pam, Dan, do you want to take one of those?
Is it a question for us or for?
Yeah, is it for
Oh,
Will?
yeah.
I'm happy to have a go at this one. Whoever's
Will,
whoever's asked this question just nailed it. This was such a common issue. So we don't link back to names necessarily. We link back to position numbers because Pam Lim might leave City of Melbourne. That creates a breakage. So if we link back to the Orion position number for us, if Pam comes or goes, it's against that position number. So that system, self-heals. Where it gets complex is where there's restructures. So where roles move across organizations, the question is, does the data go with that person, go with that role? Typically it does, but we do a restructure kind of refresh after that happens across City of Melbourne to help the work areas validate that. It's also picked up in the 12-month review. So any record that hasn't been reviewed in 12 months for us gets flagged as non-compliant. So that way it's picked up as a bit of a flag as well.
Thank you, Will. Is anyone wanting to come off mute to ask any questions?
Yeah, sorry, I've got just a follow-up question on that. So how do you deal with giving users that come into the organization a data portfolio that they have to manage? Is there much documentation or training around that for new users?
Yeah, great question. So I might go for City of Melbourne. So for City of Melbourne, what happens is if new roles, particularly roles that have a lot of data ownership, we can produce automated reports which detail all of the information assets held within their area. This is really helpful because if a director leaves and the new director is not aware that how you manage heritage data, they might just get into the organization, start working, be unaware of that. And that way later on you go, oh, no one's been keeping that up to date. So when directors start, we've got an automated report that can be produced straight away from Databricks information. Here's all the critical information you've got. Here's the degree of risk profile across which ones you might want to prioritize. Then at a data user level, the team who might be on the call, Matt and team do lunch and learn. So if someone comes in and wants to have access to data or know what data they manage, there's lunch and learn sessions and technical onboarding sessions we support our team with monthly. That's part of our learning hub support as well. Hope that helps.
Thanks, Will. I think this Stephen Chen has a question. I don't know if you ask it unless Stephen wants to come off mute. But Will, could you help explain how you encourage the owner to accept they are taking accountabilities in the council? Do you have to change the role and responsibilities of all senior leadership team who will take the ownership for some of the data domain data?
Yeah, fantastic question. So it's a real mix. We're really lucky at City of Melbourne where we established our Executive Data Governance Committee, EDGF. They were data owners naturally by having certain areas assigned to them. So assets data is a good example, customer data. 95% were like, I see the operating model, I see the benefits of owning this and driving that forward. And they said they actually took it on. And there was a couple there that we brought on the journey. So, particularly people that are acting in roles, I don't quite feel comfortable being the data owner of this. Our approach would be just to sit down and talk them, understand their concerns, and build a roadmap. So we call it the year zero. So for this year, it's pretty light touch. It's understand what is in your data portfolio as an owner, but we're designing a roadmap. It's next year and the year beyond. Consider where you might recommend standards that we can implement for you that helps uplift our data maturity as well. So we didn't have to change the role and responsibilities. The risk ownership still sits within the organizational structure, but the data domain owners can drive standards and uplift. So there's two elements to it. That's forward thinking, which is data domain owners, and then there's more reactive compliance that's within the organizational structure and the PDs itself. It doesn't seek to change that. It just uplifts us to be more strategic, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Will. Any other questions that anyone wants to ask?
What would you say is the current data maturity level across the City of Melbourne?
So I love this question. It's a similar question of what's the data quality level across City of Melbourne? And so it's such a good question because you could take it anywhere. Formally at City of Melbourne, we've used the PROV standards and for data maturity, and DCAM was at enterprise data maturity level. we were roughly, I think, in the emerging maturity. So we were getting there, but where we lacked was a comprehensive strategic data roadmap across multi-years. We'd had a roadmap once a year, so we're looking to uplift that. So we're there, but we're also looking at the standards. So we're trying to see what's the best standard we can use at City of Melbourne as well. We've tried a few, but we're open to others. And the other question is, what's our quality level too? How well managed is our data sets? Right now, we're working through measuring our data quality and the business areas designing those rules based on those data sets. That helps us to understand a bit about to what level is it being well managed to, but it's probably a few different variables there. And open to thoughts. I'd love to hear AJ and others' thoughts of how you measure data maturity across your orgs.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mahesh. I don't know if AJ wants to add to that, but the question for Pam, with the BI tools and dashboarding within Databricks, have organizations completely abandoned Power BI, or are they trying to maintain and resource two BI products? That's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's a really good Power BI has pretty much been entrenched in a lot of organizations over the years. It's a very mature tool as well. And I think that that you have a wide user base that's very familiar with how you use that. What we've seen a lot of customers is a lot of net new dashboards are being built on Databricks. So the really good thing about the native dashboarding capability is that it's pretty much drag and drop, low code. You can actually use native natural language to build your visualizations as well. So in terms of that self-service capability, we definitely see a lot of customers using that and doing that. And again, if you want to quickly spin up something that you want to, you've got data sets that you've already curated, you don't want to wait for like a separate team for that to flow through a different, I guess, workflow or pipeline. I see a lot of customers just create dashboards off on their own to be able to sort of answer questions or service particular questions at a point in time. We see a big mixture of both. So Power BI definitely for a lot of those enterprise grade dashboarding stuff that's already been embedded very deeply into existing workflows, but also more net new dashboards or new dashboards. They're building a lot of it's on Databricks, because of its just a lot of that capability and the value proposition of it. I think is this integration with Unity Catalog, and there's also this integration of Genie as well.
Thanks, Pam. Yeah, it's definitely a choose your own adventure with Databricks. You don't need to do everything that Databricks has to offer from the get-go. You can definitely choose what you want to do, and you only have to pay for what you use. You don't need to pay for every single thing, which is really good. Good thing about Databricks. So yeah, definitely choose your own adventure. Any other questions? Otherwise, happy to pass over to Alex to wrap us up. But yeah, I know Q&A usually pops off in the public sector. So yeah, definitely want to give the opportunity back to the team if there's any questions. Feel free to message any of us on LinkedIn. I think yeah, Pam and I are really and Alex and I are really responsive. So if you have any other questions, you want to do a follow-up session, like we're definitely open to having a more bespoke session, particularly to your councils. We're happy to do that as well if people are showing the call. So yeah, no worries at all. Maybe I'll pass over to Alex to wrap us up for today and give some time back to everyone.
Thanks, Jen. Perfect. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to touch on Azure Databricks. We briefly touched on it at the beginning, but Databricks is a first-party service of Azure, and I know a lot of councils are on the Azure service. Obviously, AWS is there as well, but we're cloud agnostic. But regarding Azure specifically, we have a special relationship with Microsoft. Microsoft actually has engineers that create Azure Databricks, mirroring the native Databricks, and that is on the Azure Marketplace. So if you've already done RFPs or you have that process that's pretty long and complicated, if you're already on Microsoft and are using, Microsoft Azure products, you can use Databricks without having to go through that entire process. And we found that helps a lot when it comes to agility in councils, taking something that might take a couple of years, doing it in 6 months. by leveraging the fact that Azure Databricks is a Microsoft product. So that provides the integrations that Pam briefly mentioned in regards to Power BI. We have pretty deep native integrations there, and I know that's very important and valuable to councils in general. And to touch on that as well, when it comes to the billing system, it's all done through Azure. It's all done through Microsoft. There's no extra line items or anything like that, which is pretty useful and valuable. So next steps, where do we go from here? I mentioned in the invite that we have STS, Shared Technical Services, which is a free complimentary service. It's no hands-on keyboards, but it's a sort of best practice sharing advisory group that Databricks provides to any council looking at doing use cases, products on the platform, apps, and they'll provide enablement training, best practice, and can answer any questions when it comes to the technical aspects of building on the platform. And as Janita briefly mentioned, we'll be doing some workshops and deep dives. So I'll be reaching out personally to everybody who attended today. And if there's interest in having an initial conversation, understanding the current roadmap, where your team is at the moment, where you want to be, we can build that out and make a plan for the future. And finally, Databricks Free Edition is available. It's completely free to start on. You get $20 roughly per day of consumption, and that resets. And it's all of Databricks' applications and tools pretty much in the platform, ready to go, ready to use. So you can start experimenting and seeing how it works for yourselves after this call. So we really appreciate everyone's time and joining us today. We feel like the session's been pretty productive, short and sweet. And yeah, we're looking forward to touching base in future with everybody. We'll be reaching out again personally. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to anybody on the team or on the panel today. And yeah, we'll also follow up with some information and potentially a transcription of today's webinar as well.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, AJ. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for everyone's time commitment here today. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
See ya.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.